second. We have Lucian. Lucian, test. Okay.
1 2 mic
Awesome.
check.
We are live, I think, everywhere. If you want to jump into Discord and chat with us, do that now. Today should be fairly quick. There are some things, and I'll let Benjamin and Lucian and Robert speak to this a little bit more in a second, that obviously have happened. Friday was a very, very interesting day, to say the least. There have been many discussions going on in the community around the proposal, and with all things considered, we just thought it would be good to allow more time for more clarity, for more of the progress and process to actually be a little bit slower. So first things first, there will be no governance vote on Wednesday. Tomorrow, there will be no ratification. We are stretching the process a little bit over this week to allow for just more clarity and more input to be integrated before anything moves forward. And we're not setting a specific date for another vote. We'll just listen and see when things are actually ready. So that with that out of the way, we just want to briefly today maybe take 30-45 minutes to discuss where we're at, why we're here, again, clarifying that, and make sure everybody's aligned on the process and how the next week or so will look like. And yeah, for that, before going into the details, I want to welcome Lucian and Robert and Benjamin to the stage. Check in with them because all of us, it was a long weekend, I think, for everybody in crypto. So how are you doing? And let's chat a little bit about what we're doing today.
Hello. Hey, how's it going? How's it going, everybody?
Robert,
how are you guys?
I am alive, especially that I actually took a full 24-hour of the internet Friday at before 10 p.m. and I didn't know anything about it.
To us, Robert.
I didn't know anything about what happened in the crypto market until Sunday morning or something like that. So
you have
for me it was a not
positions.
so stressful weekend in that sense.
That's good, Robert. So I understand you don't tend to over leverage yourself, Robert. Good lessons there.
No, never. Never over leveraging so I can sleep well at all times. That's a must.
That's very good. That's very good. Yeah, welcome, guys. It's really great to have this conversation. Maybe a few thoughts for today, and then we'll probably dive a bit briefly on the market. Not market discussion, but maybe incidents and some lessons there. But one point is clear. We want to extend, especially for this week, the space for more conversation with you guys. Here's some of the thoughts, feedback, and then also provide some of the updates that we have that we believe are very good and very positive in that direction. At the same time, we do believe that while everything is nuking, it's important to have just a few days, like 2-3 days, where we're considerate of that and just overinvest on the explanation part, making sure that the community is as aligned as possible, as informed as possible. And this type of investment, we believe, will yield the best type of returns. Now, coming back a bit to the market conversation, to say that the weekend has been interesting is a huge understatement, and we'll not try to do half of an hour of the conversation on that. But it suffices to say that when you have the largest liquidation event in crypto history, where like most people, even people who had a bit of leverage on top, get liquidated, that becomes a kind of very marking event. And so maybe a few lessons here, Lucian, perhaps if you want to share something, and then I'll share a note and so on. And maybe this also transitions us into what we want to chat about and why more of the economy should be on chain and not off chain.
Yeah, I mean, hard to just break it down from somewhere. I think and hard not to point fingers in this case where the fuck up was. But at least just maybe some technical aspects of this. It seems like there has been a vulnerability in the price oracle systems within Binance that actually caused this kind of market implosion. So because some of the perpetuals functions were actually using internal price feeds from within the markets that which ultimately were assets that were again themselves leveraged, that basically in short triggered a cascade of liquidations from within that went far beyond any expected limits. I think I posted something like, I think 20, 30 billions from at least what is publicly known. But I think the damages are a lot higher than that. I think there's just to touch a bit from yeah, I think how it seems this could be a lot worse than expected. Nevertheless, I'll let Benny, maybe if you want it, then I'll just also point to some of the resolutions to this and actually what I think is a good way to look at it. But please, Benny.
So I won't sit too much on it, but the big lesson for most people, I would say, is leverage can kill you. It will likely kill you given long enough time horizons. And to actually run exchanges, platforms like this with global liquidity on them is not a simple thing. That's a huge understatement. So it is very tricky, very difficult, and so on. I think in my mind, I always had this mechanistic view of the market until maybe very recently, where just because you understand the mechanisms and so on, you believe that this is how it should work. It's the invisible hand, prices, signals. Understanding a few of those things is crucial. But then I came to also understand that there's a much more subjective, human part of the market that is very much easily translated into you're either a hunter or you're being hunted. And so I think on the leverage side, whenever you take it, being aware that you're going to be hunted just gives you a very different type of awareness on how the market will play with you. This is not and should not be let's say a 101 trading session lesson and so on, but I would say that it's just important for people to have that overview as well, because at the end of the day it's not only mechanisms. There are some people that will try to take advantage of different situations in the market, and it's from time to time it's very painful, very tricky. I have a lot of friends and so on that let's say you could say they lost a hand or some limb there. But it's good that they're alive. It's good that they're kicking, and the fact that markets are just so robust that over one weekend you have the largest liquidation event, and on Monday everyone is happy and pumping, preparing for like massive bull market with rate cuts and so on. All the rumors coming in like nothing happened is absolutely astounding. Stopping here, and I think this
Maybe
is yeah, please.
I'll jump in, and I think I'll cut straight to the point. I think it's completely illegal, and some people should go to jail for this. Just to put it like this, I think what happened there crossed many limits, and if there's one thing that, from my point of view, should happen, especially knowing that who are the participant, and for example, what's the equivalent of this kind of event triggering in the traditional capital markets, which translates to one single action point, which is trading halt, full trading stop, trading halt, and literally full inspection of what are the reasoning towards why those markets are behaving like that. And if there is pure no reasoning, then basically definitely someone is manipulating, and if someone is manipulating, then someone should go to jail. Let me put it like this. Again, I'm a bit harsh on putting it like this. Definitely technical stuff, technical malfunctions could happen and happens, and I very much understand that as well, and leave an entire space open for that. However, what is, I think, unacceptable and should not be okay is, in just because we are centralizing power and just because we are delegating power, this kind of people should not try to let anything that is particularly letting the users fully out of control. Anything that literally you as an end user is completely letting you and locking you out of control, that's illegal. I mean, it's like literally you're being kept hostage, and yeah, that's not cool. Again, I think if I look forward and what I wish for this kind, and I think this is where on-chain stuff will have a mode, particularly from this kind of angle and building towards some more positive angle. Again, moving forward, I wish if those centralized parties are literally centralized, they should behave as a centralized and not as a decentralized. Such as in a decentralized setting, you could, in theory, not stop, not halt, not do any of this. If it is centralized and you're basically destroying and wiping up everything just because something malfunctioned in there, then basically that's not okay. Now, going back, I think if I look at the positive side, I think markets on chain did had a superior mode here. So if I look at in practice, what happened is that if you had positions or any kind of DeFi activities on chain, those kind of activities would have taken a lot longer to be represented or arbitrage between the centralized and decentralized worlds. What it means that AMMs for the first time, or not for the first time, but this time literally had given a lot more space to operate on. There was no such case where literally the liquidity wiped out just because the APIs were down and the market makers pulled out the entire liquidity as they could not quote the markets, right? This kind of stuff don't usually happen, especially not with AMMs. And this is actually why in practice the damages on chain were incomparable, like the triggering factors, not damages, but the triggering factors on the short term were were just superior on chain by any form factor. Like if I look ending to 0.001 cent of a dollar per different currencies that are in top 100, that's crazy. I mean, that would almost be impossible on chain. I think that's now if I look at what we're doing today and we're discussing, I think finally the reason why we ended up in this case is that maybe L1s have failed a bit to serve and put the incentives that are superior for the users to take their coins out of the exchanges and literally go with them on chain. Like if I look, even just to put in a perspective, I think we are doing an amazing job today here with the economics, just putting the right incentive for people to take and bring them on chain, to use this kind of infrastructure, to use this kind of products that we have built, compared to, yeah, I mean, 6% is cool when it comes to APR, or 5 or 3%, but those are mostly not sufficient for the comfort zone users that are just keeping their coins in exchange, and for them it's just fine. Well, finally, I think we have a good reason to take those coins out of the exchange. We're doing all the preparation, and we're doing a lot of work towards that. I think will drive to particularly bringing as much liquidity actually off chain, on chain compared to off chain and centralized parties. Pausing here. Sorry for my long speech here, but this is my view on this.
Yeah, and maybe I'll just double down on this and head into the conversation that we're having today, which partly just goes into stating a few things. One, we've had a great series of conversations, discussions, and so on with you, with the community throughout the last week. We've made quite some progress in not only explaining, clarifying, and opening up some of these discussions, taking the time to discuss them transparently and openly with you, but we've also taken the time to integrate significant feedback, to modify some of these ideas, precisely because they made sense, precisely because you guys came with some feedback, some ideas, some notes that made the conversation better, more productive, and so on. And I believe that overall, we've made a huge step and huge progress on coming to a point where the economics conversation is much clearer. It's much clearer why we're doing it. It's much clearer what we're trying to do and what are the tools through which we're trying to achieve these things. So that is really great. And having spent these days both in, let's say, different Telegram channels and Discord and on X, in the different conversations, it's just good to acknowledge the feedback, acknowledge the input, and mention that we've put an enormous amount of time in making sure we hear this type of feedback, making sure we share these ideas with you. And it's very much worth it that we've done all of that. Now, in addition to this point, the point that brings us even closer to what we're trying to do, and again, how we're trying to do it, it does raise a big point that markets are not yet fully on chain, that chains were not yet maybe at the performance, at the standards that were really needed to be able to deploy this type of systems with protection and performance embedded at their foundation. And so the economics side on top of Supernova is the right type of lever that provides the incentives for people to start moving back on chain, to start taking some of their coins. I'm sure they'll not migrate with all of their coins, but they'll start taking some of their coins, will receive better incentives for their coins, will be able to hold them in their custody, and will be able to participate in different other DeFi protocols and so on that work in a superior way to the exchanges. And I think it's very rare that we get to see superiority in terms of not decentralization or let's say censorship resistance, but actually performance and user experience where people really care, where these things are really the things that people care about, they would pay money for. And incidentally, if they're built on chain, it's not only that you have that performance, that type of user experience, that protection, but you also have the benefit of having this built on a chain that is censorship resistant, that has these properties. So summing up this part, it's worth looking at the economics discussion as this exercise in providing incentives so that people take some actions. One simple but crucial action is that people are on chain, that people do not just leave their tokens on exchanges, forget about them, and do not participate at all. This is why we want them to come back from the exchanges, to buy some tokens maybe from the exchanges as the opportunities arise. No financial advice here. But doing so actually take some action to participate, to test some things out, to share your voice within the ecosystem by being part of the on-chain economy. Stopping a bit here, and Lucas, curious if you want to add some thoughts.
I think, yeah, you mentioned a lot of this stuff already, why it's important. And this is again, we're trying to transition a model that perhaps wasn't as attractive as it should have been for users to actually bring them here, provide different activities. Obviously with Supernova, again, this is sort of a couple thing. There is a completely different on-chain experience to be had. There is completely different on-chains applications to be built. And with this model that has significantly evolved, I think we've already done a bunch of refinements that actually, again, make it quite valuable to transition your coin off exchanges, simply because you can actually participate in the economy directly and in the decision making. This process itself is actually a great demonstration of how much impact you can have if you are a stakeholder, and you can literally decide and impact what the network is doing and what the future looks like. And I want to pass it to Robert, maybe to just walk us in 2 or 3 minutes through, let's say, the major impact I think that the stakeholders have had so far. And then we're also going to add one important additional step today that I think is going to be very, very cool, and gives more leverage, more participatory opportunities in the real world financial world to the on-chain users. But first, Robert, give us a brief overview of sort of the most important changes in your mind, and then maybe a preview of what's already being worked on and integrated as we speak.
I think that all year long we have seen these sorts of attacks back and forth. Always some mysterious whales who are shorting the markets, and then always the same kind of people who are actually reaping out the benefits of tens of millions, of hundreds of millions of dollars in single day events, and that is pretty bad. And I think that regulators will come hard against these things. It cannot remain like this. And we have seen in the market how resistant some of the DeFi protocols were. Just look at Hyperliquid as well. That was, let's say, the biggest target for the move on Friday night, and they suffered the smallest compared to others. And that tells you one thing about this, let's say, open systems. Hyperliquid, you can run those validators, and then you can see what is happening. So it's actually a step better than anything which is in centralized systems. And again, this kind of transparency is opening up like every kind of actor. The good actors, those who keep the health of the network and everything, like they can do much better decisions in the future, and they can actually make good decisions to keep the network healthy, and these algorithms can actually work. On other hand, what Lucian added, like when you have on the protocol, you have AMMs and CLMMs and order books as well. This kind of dropping down to $0.01 or whatever, what happened on the big exchanges, that cannot happen in an AMM because how the curve flattens out in the at the extremes. So it shows that so finance in the Web3 form can be much more resilient by utilizing all these tools and having those liquidities where it should be. And like this blockchain was made in sense for finance, and then when it is on chain, that is the real blockchain one and not anything for off chain. And we have seen around countless of things which happened. All those big, let's say, even the big crashes before COVID and FTX and everything, those were mostly happening on centralized stuff and not on chain. I think that the only one which big which happened on chain was Terra Luna, which actually had like a flow on the algorithm, and everybody was calling out that there was an insane flow on the algorithmic stablecoin part. So from my perspective, this moment and all the other moments should just be like a wake-up call for everybody. Okay, let's do it properly with DeFi, real DeFi primitives on the chain as it actually should be, because we want to get out of this kind of crime seasons or this kind of backdoor deals, this kind of everything which is happening behind closed doors. And let's really build a finance system in this. So that's my 2 cents on this. I have seen, let's say, what happened on the chain on Multiverse X. It reacted pretty good. Some blocks were full. Users were able to use it, and liquidations happened, but not at those deep points like $3 or something like that. But they started to happen when the AMM and every other system like correlated, and then it was at a much higher level, which actually protected those lenders and everything. So it was a lot of wins for the on-chain DeFi in this weekend.
Maybe
Now,
a small correction. Yeah, a small correction from my part. I think again, I think because I was mentioning two parts, particularly the part with the responsibility and just putting a bit of space, because I think there are two parts here that are not equal in the problem, and then also putting it into a bucket. I think if I look there's two sides. One is a technical issue that I think is particularly targeting and having its own bucket of responsibility, and then there's the problem of insider trading, which is just not technical, I would say, or kind of a different, that will have its own implications. And that's the point where I say, okay, so on the one hand, bad stuff and errors happens. There are new discoveries, and also in almost any technology, generally speaking, there's an evolution process, and the evolution process comes at a cost that sometimes is being misused or exploited and so forth. But then also misconducting and doing on purpose some other stuff and attacking, which were in this case I think very much targeted. That's just a different level, and should be looked in. That's my point, and just wanted to clarify, because I'm not just making everything black and white and putting everything into bucket, but actually dissecting a bit what's what's the reason, my thought, my own personal thought process, not saying that this is how they should be perceived, used, and again, this is just my 2 cents on that. Now, if I look at the blockchain, indeed, I think I've been, if I remember correctly, just jumping out from another podcast, and then immediately was about to just finally go out for a walk, and got some messages, opened some of the explorers, and actually decided not to go for a walk immediately, just to put it like that. And then particularly looking at the load on chain, and there was, I think, the chain in itself had uh, zero zero blocks missed. There was 100% uptime. All the services were online. Of course, there were a lot of traffic. I think a lot of bots, again, spamming and DDoSing a lot of the services. However, if I look yeah, if I look at a bit of what's coming up and how we're actually coming closer towards that, I think there's, from what I know, there's an upgrade even for example, from X Exchange team, from what I know, that is optimizing the gas used per transaction, per swaps. That is actually translating to double the swaps amount per block, just I think coming around the corner. And then secondly, if I look at Supernova, I think that one again just doubles or triples the amount of compute per block, which translates again to 4 to 6 or 8 um, 6 to 8 times the total amount of swaps per second, with 10 times faster finality and execution, right? So this is just summing up to what I think we're building here, and I think what we can do. Also on that side, I'm happy that at least the technology comes closer, closer to I think a better home on chain.
Awesome. I'll just take the step and come back to almost I'm not sure if it's the final point, but the key point a bit on where we are specifically with the economics part, the proposal, the discussion, and one very significant addition that we are explicitly introducing in the conversation and in the document. And that specific addition is double opt-in method that we're attaching to the strategic reflexive investment primitive. And let me explain a bit and translate what we're speaking about here. You remember that on Friday, we've introduced the activation trigger steps specifically in the document, and we said for each and every step of these 3 buckets, we'll have some very explicit activation steps that will clarify the conversation, make it very concrete, and make it very clear when this applies and when this doesn't apply. Moreover, we've said there are a few steps that seek to make things very transparent, very protected for the users, and then also very intentional, adding not only the safeguards for the community and for the users, but then adding also intentionality so that we can move forward and make sure we seize this opportunity while it really matters. Now, the thing that we're adding today is another step on this set of activation trigger steps. And that step is a separate governance proposal that will happen for this reflexive strategic primitive. And again, to translate, we will have in the general voting procedure the entire vote for the proposal that we've outlined, that we've made great progress on, that we've now shared and translated during the last week a lot more so that everyone in the community can understand it, participate in it, and so on. But in addition to this step, we'll then also have a kind of voting procedure when we have a deal for the DAT, a deal for the ETF, a deal for the US labs section. And this will mean that one, we can be aligned, strongly aligned on the steps to make fast progress, and also give the comfort, protection, and tangible transparency to the community, because we understand that this matters a lot. Both the triggering activation steps and this part are steps that we're taking to specifically ground the conversation even more, make it more aligned for the people, and then at the same time still build the momentum, because the entire point here is we've covered all this ground, we've seen the feedback, we've seen also the excitement and the people actually supporting the ideas. But we now also want to, with these two steps, the trigger activation steps and the governance proposal, we want to make it more intentional, protected, and comfortable for the community to actually move forward with this part. Lucian, feel free, or Lucas, if you want to add something specifically on this.
Yeah, I mean, the most relevant point here is again very well put: safeguards and alignment. Alignment on executing the stuff, which translates actually that, in simple words, prior to any kind of triggering activation of any of the buckets, a full detailed report would be put in place with specific action points that reviews the agreed or the agreed details in the initial proposal, plus all the next steps relevant to the execution of that particular bucket. I think this way it just comes and drives closer, and then also it puts the community in full control of on this. I think this is and it's more than any DAO. I think it's just bigger than everything, and this aligns purely with the entire community. So we don't need to go and just assume anything. This is full responsibility, full transparency, and full alignment. I think, especially on the points that are extremely critical for the ecosystem.
Just to make sure also the difference, this double opt-in mechanism doesn't apply to the rest of
Yes.
the economics proposal. We want to have a part that is very actionable, very quick, brings the huge benefits to the community as fast as possible, moves the capital on chain, attracts new builders, and that is very actionable. We can see that people are extremely aligned on that, and they understand this part. The other part, it's a process of understanding, of educating, of explaining things, and we believe the double opt-in for this strategic primitive is the right kind of framework that just grounds the conversation and brings everyone better together. Lucas, did you want to add something on this?
Yeah, maybe just a tiny bit. There, one of the big discussions, I think, was around, let's say, the governance process of this whole thing. Again, this is, I think, an unprecedented way of actually doing governance, being in these call every day. I think now it's, I don't know, the 12th day in a row or something for us to be here. And I think it's been extremely productive. There have been many amendments that have been brilliant and great suggestions that will still be implemented. But I think that's been one of the biggest things where I think a legitimate concern, of course, in all of these things is like, how does this then actually, is this executed, especially on the RSI part? We've had some productive discussions on how to organize the entities that then govern the part of the emissions for the builders, for the DeFi incentives, and these things. And again, on that one, I just want to make sure if anybody hasn't tuned in there, these are, let's say, plugins to the governance process that will also get their own governance vote. Now I don't know how many governance processes we can handle this year, but we're definitely stretching it. So to be clear, there is now one proposal with about 5 different things to decide on. That is one. Then there will be another proposal on how the governance of the emissions buckets work. This is KPI gated for starters, so it's not something you can easily manipulate, but this is also given to the stakeholders. The processes that were or are in the proposal or were in the latest Agora draft, this is still a draft, one, and two, this will be decided separately because it's an entirely different separate discussion on how you actually set up these bodies to work efficiently, fast, and distribute these funds at the right time to the right people or organizations. So that's a different process. Now we're also adding another process, which I think is a great function to give back the power, or give the power to the stakeholders there, which is, one, yes, we're committed in principle to making these things happen, but before any deal actually goes through, there's another vote on this that makes sure that everybody can opt in and is aligned with the process. So I think that's great progress, another very good step, and I think hopefully for those who have been on the fence there, this is a great mechanism to be open to the discussion and continue contributing in there if there's anything else that sort of like was making them uncomfortable. So that's it. Yeah, Andu is saying more votes, more transactions. That's also something that I think we touched on before. What is the actual benefit of being on chain, right? It's exactly stuff like this. If you want to just hold and forget about something, that's nice, but it's not actually what this decentralized dream of blockchains is about. It's about participation. It's about governance. It's about having a say. It's about getting involved. It's about changing the things you want to see changed. And this entire process, I think, has been a good demonstration of how much can actually happen in a very, very short time when people come together. So I think everybody in the community should be very proud of how much they've contributed and how much this has been a productive process. So yeah, that's maybe my 2 cents, because I'm actually super excited about how all of this has been progressing.
And I'm thinking that we've covered basically the key points that we wanted today. Just the overview on where we are, the progress that has been made, and the integration of the double opt-in method, specifically on the reflexive strategy investment primitive. And I'm curious, should we proceed to just outlining a bit how we're looking at this week, or should we get some thoughts or some perspectives?
Yeah, I think if anybody has pressing questions, I already saw one answered in the chat. This was one that we made this a Discord stage, so people could come up and perhaps give any hints on where they still see the need for clarifications. But maybe let me first say what our plan is for this week, and then this can be greatly guided by community input. We've done a real marathon up to this point. Like I mentioned, there was something starting on October 3rd. Today is October 13th, so I guess this makes 10 days of continuous streams, often multiple per days, and broadcasts and town halls, and of course, all the groups, chat groups, etc. in between. This will continue, but we are giving a little bit more space for the actual integration. There is a bunch more that needs to be put and processed into the proposal as it is now. A lot of the time, the forums were great, but I think the past couple forums showed that, let's say, the verbal input wasn't as much anymore. So and we think we heard a lot of the great points already. So now it's actually time to integrate a lot of this still. So the next forum is now scheduled for Friday. Now, this comes with a caveat, which is if there is a need for another town hall or another forum session on Wednesday or Thursday or something, then we're happy to provide it. For now, it seems that the most productive way of going about it is just to take the time to integrate it, make sure to communicate any changes that are now new and integrated. We highlighted a very important one today. We'll publish the text for this perhaps tomorrow, I would assume, and there will also be some other changes in there that provide more clarity on wording and maybe address some of the other challenges or changes that have been brought that have been very good. But for now, we just want to provide another of these spaces, participatory spaces, as we did them last week on Friday, and process anything else in the meantime through all the means that you are now, if you've been participating, already used to. This is a forum. This is, of course, the Agora. This is the Pulse platform where you can either just say how you're feeling, or if you want to bring ideas or upvote others' ideas, you can do that too. So there is ample opportunity for getting involved. We think for now the most productive thing is to process that sort of not through endless conversations and streams here, but more targeted on the proposals. So in addition to that, there's also a bunch of new tools and explainers. Basically, every day this week, we'll have a theme on a new thing that will be explained, be it burn rates or tail inflation or things like that. I think Robert and Mihai Șchiupu coded a bunch of tools and did a bunch of projections today. So there will be more spreadsheets released and things that really perhaps make it very tangible and easy to understand what's going on. So that's basically the plan is slow down a little bit in the sense with the streams and with the interactive things here, but very much process and integrate continuously all the feedback and then present that as it comes up. And we reconvene with the community in a big forum on Friday. Yeah,
I
so
would
so
like
that's
to I would like to add that the community doesn't need to slow down. So just
exactly.
use
No,
the
that's never
forms and
the
Agora and everything. And the one of the things we have understood like these 12 days and how it is that you never know what the other person doesn't know. So if you have anything, you want clarifications, instead of listening to a KOL, first read the document yourself, think about it, and if you still have clarifications, you can nicely ask it. Literally, DMs are open, Agora is open, anything is open. And I think for a lot of fears, which you might have, one, there should be or is a solution on the document. If it is not, it can be solved by discussing. And I'm quite happy, especially on the Agora, where people are actually using their even AI and using their own thoughts on, let's say, how one or two things might be not as good because, let's say, there are attack vectors or something. Some of these things are fairly technical and I can respond to their specifically. For example, that was one for the builders free for the 90%, and it can be explained why it cannot be actually gamed and taken out of context. And there are some things like this. And then if there is one more week, everybody can, let's say, familiarize with the ideas, think about those ideas, think what, let's say, opportunities those ideas bring, and whether he can use those opportunities to bring something to the network, because the whole idea is bring more liquidity to the network, bring more depth to the network, bring more activity to the network, and then to reward these kind of activities all over the place. So that's my 2 cents in this. I don't want necessarily the community to slow down, but to, let's say, to go even deeper in the questions, and then we go even deeper on the clarifications.
That's a great amendment. That's not at all what I meant to suggest. We're not slowing down as the team either. We're just it's a good way to actually focus things and focus progress. So very much all of these channels are open. And if there's a little bit time spent streaming, there's a lot more time time spent integrating and actually pushing the proposal forward. So all of that time can flow into this. But again, if there is a need to have more of these types of forums, very happy to provide it. We just need to see the feedback on it. I think, yeah, that's basically it. Wondering if, and also I will say maybe one more thing on this. If there's particular things that you feel need clarification, feel free to put them in the chat right now. Let us know, because again, as we want to do a theme every day, perhaps this theme is something that escaped us. Again, we don't know what people don't know. There's so much time that all of us have spent looking, going through this proposal, amending things, talking about these things. It's very difficult to sometimes to get out of that, and this is where your perspective is so extremely valuable and has been so valuable. So very much looking forward to also understanding better of what you want to understand better.
Maybe to jump in a bit on that, just reiterating, I think one particular point, which is that even this week, again, we're gonna have, I think, some amendments, maybe smaller ones, as the document is coming very good along. But again, reasoning about the entire progress and the way I would look at it is particularly with the safeguards and with the double voting on the most critical stuff, which are the RSI or the 0.5, is actually finally, I think, just getting everything towards a conclusion that is just in all senses aligned with the community, and also empowers all the stakeholders with the right tools, with the right processes, particularly to make sure that everything is being governed in the right manner, with the safeguards, again, on the most critical and important steps for each of them, which I think, again, it's something that I wished myself, and I think I'm just happy to move forward. And now seeing this, I think the more people will understand that, then this is just I think people would just want to see it live as soon as possible. But again, this is just my personal feeling. Again, after today's latest additions with those critical safety measures in place, I just wanted personally to see it live, and but still will await patiently until everybody comes to the same conclusion, and I hope the things will be brought home soon.
Great. I guess final words, and I don't see any questions in the audience or suggestions.
Vote yes. Vote yes.
Not yet. Please get involved, and if there's anything you're unsure about, let us know so you can confidently and happily vote yes sometime in the near future.
I see. Should we put up a vote for Adrian to sleep less and try to ship faster?
I think
I
we
saw him
want
in the
him to
meeting
sleep
today.
more.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't think he's sleeping, so I don't know.
But
Yeah.
by the way, this is a very good question. How long can you not sleep until you end up not producing anything at all anymore? So it's 3 days. Very good. I see that you already played it out behind. Interesting.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for being here, guys. We do think that actually having the incentives live, having the liquidity come faster to Multiverse X is what we all want, especially now that the reset is behind us. With this reset behind us, we may as well get ready for more, hopefully, positive stuff. There's always surprises and so on, but we want to make sure that the market doesn't keep waiting for us, and we are ready. We move intentionally with clarifications, making the proposal as tight as possible, and then going with it as fast and thoughtfully as possible across the finish line. Talk is good, explaining is good, interaction and participation as much as possible from you is great. And then beyond a certain point, once we've gotten the feedback and have tightened the proposal, we'll want to take that live. So thank you, and have a great evening with good positive progress for the next few days.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This is it for today. We'll see you latest on Friday. Let us know if you want to see us earlier. And bye-bye for now. Cheers, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.